Hi, my name is Victor Vogel. I have the Substack Communication Excellence, and I guess probably for the next 60 days, I'm going to spend a little more time talking about. I don't want to say politics because I don't want to talk about politics, but I want to talk about the people of America and what you should be doing right now, and how you ought to be thinking about your government. It's one thing to criticize it. It's another thing to criticize it and not do anything to try to help to change it. So there's a lot I've been thinking about. I'm 80 years old, so I've been through a lot of elections and I've been through a lot of situations uh, that deal with our country, whether it's been in country or out of country. So there's some things that I think that you should think about in the upcoming weeks. And the first one is make sure that you are uh, registered to vote, that you have the right to vote, that you understand all the legal aspects of how to vote in your state, and be prepared to follow those. So, if you can't vote by mail, by absentee ballot, unless you have a certain situation, and now I could if I wanted to, one because of my age or one because of disability right now. Hopefully, that'll be taken care of at the end of August when I have some surgery and get a hip replacement. But you've got to know that one, you're registered. You got to know where to vote. You need to know if you can vote early, where to go and vote early, and do that if possible. If at all possible, you can vote by mail or absentee ballot. Do that, but make sure you take it to the right place to deposit it if you have to. Uh, so follow all the rules. Become very familiar with those over the next week or two. And then encourage some other people to do that. That's what I am doing here. I'm encouraging you to become familiar with this and then to encourage others to do this. I don't know why I'm doing it this late at night. I think it's because it's still 90 degrees outside here in Oklahoma, and that's just blistering ass hot. And I wasn't sleeping, so I think I will go get on Substack, and I'm going to help some people. Now, here's what you want to be thinking about relative to candidates. Some people will be telling you, vote for Trump because he's going to put the right things and give us what we need. And um, one, if you believe that, still believe that, I'm probably not going to change your mind. But if you are even hesitant about that, then you realize that the facts don't represent what Trump and the Republican Party are telling you. So, one, go find facts. I just did a Substack here, I think this morning, and I published it. And it was basically saying that the number one thing that people are screaming out there about. Let me get my coffee out of the way here. Get my throat going a little bit better too. The number one thing that are on people's mind now is the cost of food. Okay, that food is just horrendous. I mean, literally, I can spend $50 or $60 and walk out with two little plastic bags. That's pretty bad. That's pretty. I mean, it's bad because I have the capacity to go back 60 or 70 years and remember putting six or seven huge grocery bags in a cart to carry back to the car. And I probably spent $30. So I've seen what we've done to ourselves with this capitalistic. I don't want to say capitalism's bad. We need capitalism for innovation. We need it for funding the government. We need it for funding us and providing the services. And, I mean, I think we really do need all that. What I'm talking about is the difference between ethical and unethical capitalism. Unethical capitalism is where people are taking advantage of you and they're not out trying to help you. I know I was in leadership consulting for over 50 years, and every bit somebody's had a Substack the other day that had to do with uh, how people felt about a company after a while and what's going on in companies today, and that relationship between employees and companies, and it's not good. It's not good, by the way. Hasn't been good for the last 3 decades. Um, and I've you can go to my website, www.victorlvogel.com, and you can read all about the paradigm change I think we need to make and how that's going to shift companies and how that's going to kind of position leadership to be in a better perspective and help us become more adept at dealing with what's going to happen in the future. Now, going back to the food, the that's the biggest problem we have is cost, and one of those costs is food. So I'm going, well, so what's happening? So what is Congress actually doing about our high cost of food? They say it's important that just hang on, it's coming, but I've been hanging on for a year and a half and it isn't coming. Okay, so I'm asking, what makes, tell me something to make me believe that that's going to happen, okay? And then I'll wait. But here's what's happening. Uh, there are 3 bills on lowering your food cost. Three, 3 bills. And one of them has been passed through the House. The other two haven't even reached the floor of the House to start being presented. This is since 2025. 3 bills. So this is how you can kind of use AI. By the way, if you want to have some fun with AI and you want to use it, then use it by learning how to write prompts, asking sometimes crazy or stupid questions, and have fun with it. But sometimes you can ask the question: what is Congress actually doing right now to help us lower food costs? So what are the responsibility of the congressperson? Have you ever thought about that? It's to write bills and pass bills that help the general public in terms of what they need out there. That's what Congress is designed to do. That's why you hire them. And by the way, that's one of the things you need to understand. You need to change how you think about congressmen or representatives. Let's call them representatives. I mean, senators or congressmen. Uh, we have this image of them that they stand on a pedestal and they come out and they come in and walk in praise and they wave at us, or they'll come over and hold the baby or kiss the baby. That's what kings and queens did in Europe. And why? And so we idolize them, or we look at them and we say they're great people. The reality is you don't know that. Most people don't know that. They don't have any idea what a congressman has done. So that's why I got back and I prompted AI. I said, how many bills have been written and passed in Congress since January 1, 2025? Well, let's just say this administration. You could do it with Biden's too. Okay. How many bills have passed that have dealt with lowering the cost of food? And it came back, and then, of course, it went to house.gov and, the basic government things to look. So I went back and looked them up, and I feel fairly comfortable with what it said was accurate. It said there were three bills. One bill had been passed through the House, but was just dead and still waiting in Senate. And two bills have not made it even to the floor. All these bills have been primarily Democratic driven. They're talking about reducing costs and price gouging and things like that. You can read it if you go read in Substack. It's Substack is called Communication Excellence, so it's on in there in my website on the Substack website. So I was sitting there asking, and I'm going, "What's going on? Three bills." So then I went, "Okay, tell me again how many House of Representatives we have, and put that together, add it up, and tell me about how many senators we have." Comes out we have about 635 representatives from all over the country in one area. 635 people in all of that building. You see them wandering around the hallways and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, right. So I was at 635 people working. And I'm going, what's the average? Combine the salaries, take the salaries of this is all public knowledge, combine the salaries of the senators and the House of Representatives, give me sort of an average of what they're getting paid. It's about $174,000 a year. So we have, let's see, there's 200 and some people. There's 100 people in the Senate. I'm sorry, I may have misquoted. It may not be. It may be closer to like 400 and some people. It's over 400 people for sure. That are actually in there making $174,000 on the average every year. Their primary purpose is to go to find out what our constituents need and to go out there and, frankly, pass write bills and pass bills that help us reduce food costs or improve our health care or whatever that is that we're saying we need. That's one of the issues. I'll talk to that in just a minute. I don't want to get. I keep getting away from this theme that I want to put it. But so we have three bills, 400 and let's see, there's 430 plus 100, about 535, somewhere like that. I keep bouncing back and forth. I should have that in front of me, but I don't. But like I said, you can go good. It's a hell of a lot of people, over 500 people that are in the House and the Senate writing bills, and we only have three dealing with the number one problem that everybody in America is screaming by. Get my food costs down. It's what Donald Trump said he was going to do. Day one, I'm going to reduce that food cost. I think it went the other way. Maybe he has a different definition of reduction than I do, but it sure as hell isn't going down. It's going up, and I've never known that to be reduction. So think about that. Over 500 some odd people, $174,000. Look how much money that is. Where does that money come from? That is where our tax money is going. Three bills. And they for over a year and a half, they've been just bouncing around and talking about them. What company have you ever worked for if you were charged with producing so much product that you could just bounce around and not do anything with it for a year and a half and get paid $174,000. What company do you know that will put up with that very long? Not very many. But that's what's going on. Three bills. So if you're wondering whether anybody, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat or independent, if if you're wondering if anybody, there are probably six people who have produced a bill to reduce that would reduce our cost of groceries, actually reduce them, but they can't get them in front. Nobody else wants to look at them and discuss them and debate them and then put them up and then vote on them and then put them into law and then make people go out and do that, which is what they're there to do. I think that's I think that's what we do. I think we hire them to do that. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty certain that's in their job. That's part of their role. So I'm going. We got a wrong. Excuse me. Uh, on top of the hot when it's hot, 61 degrees. There's a little thing on the allergy chart that I have on my phone. It shows the air quality index, and that air quality index is just going up and up. And when it goes up and up, that's bad. That means your air quality is not good. It's high. There's high risk in the air. So that's what's going on. I'm susceptible to allergies and air quality, but and it's been like over 100 and some odd degrees for the last 3 or 4 days. Going back to our situation here. So here we have all these people. I'm asking myself, do we, the people, really know what we want these people to do? We are paying their salaries, truly, literally paying their salaries. Taxes that we put in, the money that we put in taxes every year, that's paying their salary. We have in our position, it's kind of invisible, but we carry it with us day in and day out. The one thing that equalizes everybody in America, it equalizes everybody. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what socioeconomic status you're in, whether you're how old you are, or what race you are, what ethnicity you are. I don't care about any of that. Irregardless of that, this is one thing that everyone has that is equal across all of those categories I just mentioned, and that's your vote. So when you vote for somebody, how do you do it? Do you just sit there and watch television ads and then just go vote for them? Do you know anything about them? I mean, I look at this senator in Maine as a primary example, or the guy that was running for senator. Probably a pretty popular guy. I'm not sure he still wouldn't be a good senator. We wouldn't know that unless we allowed him to go in and try and do that. But he's a pretty free thinker, and they seem to like him in Maine until they found out that he had a physical abuse problem with his domestic physical abuse problem. And some of that was related to his PSTD from the military. He had had like 3 or 4 tours, and you know that that gets to some people and other people it doesn't. And it must have got to him, and he has trouble controlling his emotions. So no, that's not somebody we want to be in the Senate. We need somebody a little more safe. But we don't necessarily need lawyers who are going to do nothing, or doctors who are going to do nothing, or politicians, professional politicians who are going to do nothing. Uh, so I thought to myself, we as Americans really need to get a grasp on what I used to help companies and leaders do to connect more effectively with their employees. And that's understand your role, understand your responsibilities and your roles and your functions in this society that we live in. And you can't be in a government that's a democracy and just say, I don't have any responsibility. I won't vote. I'll just wait and see how things shake out. But then you bitch about it when it doesn't shake out the way you want it. But at least most people do. So there is some things that we need to get our arms around. And one of those things is we've kind of got the situation back asswards. And by that I mean we look at these people like they are gods, like they are, and by that I mean the representatives we elect. Uh, they are people who seem to be elevated above us. They think they are, and a lot of times I think we think they are. They're not. They are our representatives. So instead of them spending a lot of time on politics, they need to spend a lot of time on representatives, representing us, being our representative. And right now, this is all about politics. This is what they think their job is to play around and talk to people. And it's one of those situations where they're not talking to us, the people who elected them, who voted for them. We're out here screaming. I mean, I watched town halls where people were pissed off and were yelling and screaming, and that's probably not going to get you what you want. But the thing that astounded me was that person who we paid our money and voted for to represent us simply was ignoring it and just walked out of the meeting. Walked out. Representing us who were yelling and screaming about why we were frustrated. The person even had the leadership skills to de escalate the problem. That's a lot of what I do when I teach people about communication. De escalate the situation, figure out how to spend some time, like say, hey, look, this sounds important. I'll tell you what, come back tomorrow. We'll rent this place again. We'll divide you into some teams. Let me get a facilitator in here. Let me go get Vic and let's get some facilitator in here and let's get some stuff on the wall that we know we can get our arms around, and that'll help me know what you want me to do. And then I now know what I need to go up there and do with other people. By the way, when I get up there, I'll probably find out that if that happened in every small town or every community in America that's voting, if you just kind of got the community together and they did that first, they tell the person what they want. When everybody comes back to DC, there's a very strong chance that there's probably at least five major things that everybody agrees on in America. I don't care what you're, red, blue, any of that. These five things, if you did those, Americans would be much better off and would appreciate you a whole lot for getting it done. It'd probably be the same five things from all of the various communities. Right now, we're pretty certain if you're paying any attention to information that's flowing in on news or podcasters or a bunch of that stuff, uh, you're hearing the same thing over and over and over again. Lower the cost, lower the cost, lower the cost, lower the cost of food, lower the cost of healthcare. Help me get some healthcare. I got to make a choice between pills and food. I shouldn't have to do that. That's what I'm paying you to go up and help us do. Do that. Just do that one thing. Help me do that one thing. I will vote for you every time. But we're struggling with that. That's not the relationship we have with our representatives. They see themselves as the elite. They are not the elite, they are the employee. So if you're going to take some time, when I tell you to go out and make sure you're registered to vote, you know how to vote and when to vote and where to vote, and then actually go in there and vote. The next thing you have to decide is who am I going to vote for? Now, do I just want to go in there and vote the straight Democratic ticket um, and just to try to get Trump and all of his minions and I'll refrain from what I want to say out of office? That's kind of an abuse of your vote because there's no guarantee that just by voting a straight ticket, if you don't know who you're voting for, that they're going to come in. There are three bills to reduce food cost. I'm sorry. There are three bills to reduce food cost. Those bills were put together by four senators and representatives. Four out of 500 and something. Four. Four of them got in there and they wrote the bill and they're trying to push it through. I'm guessing, since they were probably bills developed by Democrats, if they ever got put up and into committee and passed through committee, everybody would probably say, "Yeah, these sound kind of cool." I mean, we passed a bill like that. We just passed a bill like that about housing, and Donald Trump didn't sign it. He didn't veto it, but he didn't sign it. And both Republicans and Democrats got in. They actually passed a bill that's going to help us reduce the cost of housing. And they stop people from buying up these homes and then turn them into rental properties and doubling their price that somebody would have to pay if they could bid on it and buy it. Uh, and all the uncertainties of that. Well, that's exactly what we need somebody to do about our food costs too. But three or four senators that all is working on that. What is everybody else working on? I don't know. And you probably don't know either if you're honest. You have no friggin' idea what they're working on. And that's because the relationship between us and them is they are the elite. They are the important person. They are the one who can make things happen, but they're not making them happen. And frankly, it's probably the if we got down to asking people generally, if you could climb on here with me and we could share screens and have hundreds of thousands or millions of people on at one time, wouldn't that be an interesting adventure? Uh, but people would all probably say, yeah, we want our food quicker. We want to be able to the grocery store, spend $50 and feed a family of four people for the week. We would love to be able to do that so that all the kids are not hungry and everybody has right nutrition and things like that. And we don't have people gouging us with prices. People can't eat healthy because these large chains of grocery stores recognize that people want to buy those foods, so they jack up the price. And then you have a situation where things are unfair. Uh, so here's the deal: if you're going to vote for somebody, you're going to need to do some work, folks. If you want to spend that valuable vote, something that you have that's just as valuable to you as it is to the person that has $1 trillion, you know, Uh, uh, same weight, same value. So if you want to spend that wisely, you need to change your mindset. You need to think of your representative as your employee, not as your employer, not as somebody who is you report to, you ought to be grateful to. He controls how you think and what you say. No, it's the other way around. And it needs to change. The paradigm needs to be turned upside down. And we need to start hiring people with our vote. Think of it that way. If you're going to hire this person to go do what you want them to do, then you need to know something about them. The same way, if I were hiring you to work for me, I would want to know about you. What's the history? What's the background? Have you ever seen a background check on this person? Where do they work? What's their history? What have they been doing? Then you do a criminal background check on them and a financial background check on them. If they would have done a little better job vetting that in Maine, that guy would have been found out a lot earlier, and he wouldn't have been such a big, thing. They would have just said, "Oh no, look, he doesn't qualify even to run, let alone we need him to run." So find out about your people. How many of you know much about Langford? How many have even ever met Langford? So the way that you go about this, that you can find out about people, is don't watch their videos. Don't watch their advertisements. That's why everybody wants a lot of money so they can pile it in and make everything look really great, put it on TV. They never have her come out and sit down across the table from you and answer your questions. That's a different kind of communication. The media, podcasting, and what I'm doing right now and everything else is not your best form of communicating and connecting with people because you leave out so much of the nonverbal stuff. It is a lot harder to answer a tough question sitting across from somebody that's 3 feet away from you than it is if I get in a town hall and all of you are scattered out there and somebody yells something and there's not enough time to discuss it. There's no. So you've got to get your representatives, first of all, get to know them, read about them, find out what they've done. Have they been successful? Anybody who would have done a good background on Donald Trump would have known he was a failure all his life. He was a con artist, not a business person. He was a failure, and he's still a failure. He hasn't delivered anything. First term, this term, I don't know what he's going to do when he gets out, if he gets out. So find out about this person that you're going to do your voting for. And find out about everybody you intend to vote for. If it's a judge, find out about them. What's their background? Were they a lawyer? How many cases have they done? And what's been their history? Now, this is where AI today can help the average person. You can sit down at a computer on Google and click the little Gemini AI thing and ask the question: how many bills has so and so passed as a state senator? You get in there and you go, I haven't passed any. They were in there 4 years. They never passed a bill. They never wrote a bill that got passed that they did for 4 years. But they want to be your federal senator. I'm not sure I want somebody that never got a bill passed. They may be great, they may be attractive, they may wear expensive clothing, they may read monitors that have ghostwriters write their speeches for them and be able to look at the monitor and like I'm like you can look at the monitor and read the thing and look right in there and you come across great. You never passed a bill. My God, why would I want to put somebody like that in? Or maybe it's a situation I want somebody that then passed a bill, but he's also never been a senator. Somebody who knows my problem is me, but has enough intelligence and education and knowledge to go up and write a bill, and enough guts and backbone to tell people who said, look, that's not the way we do it up here in Washington, D.C. You could say, hey, I got a big fat message for you. I don't work for you. I work for them back in Yukon, Oklahoma. And that's who I'm caring about right now. So what are you doing? I need your help to get this bill passed. So let's talk about it and tell me why you won't want to do it. And if it's because you're not getting it paid for it or your lobbyist doesn't like it, then get the hell out of my way. I'm going to go find somebody that will. And these are things you've got to do up there. And yet, will that create a ruckus up there? Yeah. Does that need to happen? Yes. We don't need to change the Constitution. We do need to change the guts of how we do business in Washington or how we operate in Washington. There's a lot of things that need to change about how they do business. And a lot of things need to change about how they do business with us, about how they view us, how we view them. That makes it important for us to let them know what we expect them to do. So here's a bill that I tell people they ought to ask a question of a senator, and again, not in a town hall, at Starbucks around the table, 6 or 7 people talking with this Senate candidate for senator or governor or whoever, and you ask them a question. You go, I need you to get up there, and I need you to get a bill written and get enough supporters and get it through all the committees and get it passed and get it signed by the President of the United States that says that constituents can recall their representative anytime they want when they feel like the representative is not doing the job that they paid him and voted for him to do. And that they can do that through petition and voting. And if that happens, they can recall them and that there's a process to put another person in place. And it isn't for the governor to elect them. It is for the people of those communities to decide who they want to put back in there. So it won't be a politician who decides who goes back in. So you keep the party out of it. It's the people of that community who withdrew, who recalled this person, and now they want to find another person to put in there and put them in there and make that happen. Then your representative now has accountability to you the person who voted them in there. You can do that in some states, I guess, maybe not all states. I haven't even looked this up, but I know they tried to recall the governor of California, and the people chose not to. And it was a people vote. So, okay, he can feel fairly certain, but he needs to be connecting with those people because the fact that they had a recall says that there was enough people on the other side, even maybe it was just the other side, but that's still enough people that you represent them too. You need to go talk to them too. You can't avoid them. Don't just talk to your party. You are the governor, you are the president, you are the senator of everyone when you do that. And it doesn't come back. Don't let the idea that if you write a letter to somebody, like uh, you get another letter back saying, "Thank you for, we're considering that, and here's all the thousands of things we're doing that have nothing to do with what you're wanting them to do." And when I get letters like that back, or I want to be able to recall that person and take them out of the office and position because they're not doing the job. Three, three bills, six people in a year and a half, and they still haven't got a cost reduction in food bill passed. One of the next, probably more important than that housing bill was, because it impacts so many more. So there you go, folks. I am encouraging you to do this. Take a different attitude about your vote. Reestablish a new relationship with your representative. Force them to come sit down with you in your community and talk with your people in small groups. Do that now. Get together in small groups and put some pressure on these people to meet in independent, small environments where they have to ask your question, answer your question. And they can't walk away from it. You know, it's hard to walk away from six or seven people around a breakfast table. If they're sitting there talking to me, but you also have to come together and not just get angry and holler. You won't get things across doing that. Across doing that. Okay. You have to de-escalate it, bring it down to a reasonable discussion about the facts of what's going on so they understand exactly what you need them to do, exactly what you expect of them, and exactly how they're going to measure that. So start getting together, start talking to each other. It's not about parties. It's not about parties anymore. This is what people have been mad about for decades. It's that we needed to reconstitute how we do business. I don't want to say do business. How we govern our government, and the way we've been doing it, we don't like it. The people don't like it. They don't like it. They've been saying they don't like it. They just probably haven't known how to connect with you as representatives. And you probably haven't wanted them to because that's kind of a burden on you. You actually have to go do your job then, as opposed to be the big person, that at dinner at the fine restaurants and travel around and meet people, shake hands and be idolized. I'm tired of idolizing people that don't do the job. I don't idolize people that do the job. I appreciate them, I respect them, but I don't idolize them. So neither should you. That's what I'm telling leaders about how you need to connect with people. Now, what's going to get in your way of doing this? One, you don't know how. There are people in your communities like myself. I mean, if somebody came to me and said, help us pull this together, I could probably help you pull that together. But there are many, many more besides me out there. You have to find them, and then you have to get them to come help you. And then, instead of having a town hall where you're screaming at somebody, you come to a town hall all organized, what your key five top key priorities are that everybody agreed on. If you couldn't agree on it, then don't present it because it's not going to get done. But there are five things I'm sure every community, really everybody in that community agrees on, that if you did something with those five things would make our lives much better, and that they can be done. And no, they're not the really argumentative things like immigration or religion or race or any of that. Those are things that politicians throw out there to distract you from the reality of what you really need, because they have trouble getting together and just doing the job of providing for your needs. It's not a glamorous job, nor is leadership glamorous, but when it's done right, it helps the employees, and it helps the customer, and it helps the company. And that's what we need. We need people who we've decided to elect to lead, but there's a little difference between us and a company. A company hires the top leadership, hire the people, and then they tend to override the workforce. And that's the big problem they have. They have to struggle with that problem. And that's an altogether different environment and culture thing to deal with. That's not the case with us. The case with us is we, the people, are hiring. It would be what I would consider an ideal corporate culture transformation when the leadership says, okay, you guys think this is easy? You go ahead and tell us what we need to be doing. That would be the ideal corporate. I would love to manage that one, because once you get people really excited, they normally know a hell of a lot more about what's going on than the leadership knows about actually running the company. Now, maybe in terms of whether you want to buy or sell this company up here, that's the executive role. But in terms of making that company hum, they probably know more about it than any of the leadership in the organization. And that's where leadership fails. They fail to understand the paradigm shift that you need to make about connecting with your people and integrating your people and providing them and defining those roles in such a way that you operate like a community and that you cross communicate. So that's one thing. You got to think about yourself differently. Think about your representative differently. You got to get out and do the work. AI can help you do the work. Type those prompts in. How many bills does somebody pass? Give me the history of so and so. Has anybody? Is there any record of so and so having any kind of criminal record or anything? You can type that in. You'll get an answer. Now it's up to you to validate it. It's up to you to validate it because AI is, it says it's not 100% correct. You got to validate it, but it narrows it down. It brings it down to a more manageable chunk of information to work with. So you can start compiling it faster and a little bit easier. So start using AI to do some of this information gathering on anybody. Give me a history of how many cases is so. I mean, a lot of this stuff is public record, particularly for politicians. If somebody's running to be a judge and on the Supreme Court in a state, that you it's a matter of record the number of cases that they have tried and how they've ruled in those cases. And you can get that consolidated down now fairly quickly. And if you don't know where to ask AI. Where should I ask? Where should I look for this information? Give me a listing of possible good sources for this information, and it'll give you a list. Now it's up to you to validate it, make sure they're good, but that narrows it down quite a bit. You're not going through the phone book, you're not looking through papers, it's right there in front of you, and normally they'll summarize it for you too, so you can have that happen. So there's no excuse anymore for not knowing your representative. There is no excuse for missing that information, and the reason they came forward is the young lady got brave enough and stood up and said, "Hey, this was a problem for him." And so you don't want that to happen. You want to be able to find this information yourself, and much of it is public records. Public records. But then the other part of it is you need to understand who that person is, their character. And the only way you do that is to get them in front of you and ask them the tough questions. What do you believe about this? Why? What's important to you? So if you are a Christian, why did you do this and why did you do that? Because that's not the Christianity I know. Or, hey, I'm not Christian, so do I not count? Is that what you're telling me? Come on, explain that one to me. Uh, those are things that you want to get in front of your candidates face to face. You don't, and you want to do them in smaller groups. Try to get candidates out of making videos and podcasting and into your coffee shop where you tend to have coffee. Invite them in, bring them in, and say, "Hey, I've got 6 or 8 or 10 people. We got a lot of questions to ask you, and we want to get those questions, and we're going to consolidate those and send them out to the rest of the neighborhood. We're kind of been designated as the people to ask those questions of you." That catches uh, the attention of a candidate real quick if they're interested in running to satisfy your needs. These are things you've got to do now. It's a different world. You can't just sit back and not do these things. You've got to do them. So there are some people who can get out there and do this better than others. So find out who they are and let them do it for you. And then take the information they have and then check it out for yourself and see how you feel. Work together, work as a team, if you will. The more we start talking to each other and doing it together, the more united you're going to find out we really are. And when that happens, those people who try to divide you or isolate you or override you with a whole bunch of worthless information is going to find out that you filter through that quickly, and they're going to be stumbling, and that person that's stumbling is not the person you want to be putting in. I don't care how much the party is pushing them. Don't let the party regulate your vote. This is the one thing, remember, the one thing all of you, regardless of all the categories we talk about, is equal. Everybody's is equal. So when you vote that, make sure you vote it for what you think you really want to have in there. And listen carefully to what they're saying and decide whether is this person going to do it or are they just kind of bullshitting me and pulling my leg. And people who are earnest and really want to do this have a pretty good idea how they want to do it. If they start talking around it, ask a very direct question, a yes and no question, what we call a binary question. So, is this exactly how you're going to do this, or is this what you believe? And it's either a yes or a no. And then they start humming and say, no, no, is this what you believe? And it's hard when you use a binary question, you're trying to get people to their core feeling about something. Okay. If you're trying to get a generalization of what they're thinking about everything, then you want to ask open ended questions like, so how would this work? That's like an open ended question. A binary question is, this is what you actually mean, right? That's a yes or no. Uh, and it gets to the core feelings of things. I hope this has helped you a little bit. I want you to understand that communication is not easy. And by the way, the vast majority of you have never been trained in how to communicate effectively. You can talk and hear and never connect with a lot of people well, and think you are. My lifetime, I've assessed and interviewed tens of thousands of employees in all kinds of situations in all kinds of countries. And a lot of times when I ask questions that are pretty pointed, like, what is the one thing you would like your leader to do better? And 98% of them are, that's probably too many, probably 80 plus percent say communication. I go, well, what do you mean by that? What is it? And they start talking things like, well, I never see them. Well, that's a communication behavior. It's a nonverbal communication behavior. It's actually a lack of a behavior, but because frequency of interaction would be the behavior, and they would be lacking it. So that tells you a whole lot about the person. I have one chart that I sent out that uh, did some look at interpersonal communication. You could see the bars for the boss, and you see the bars for the peers of this person. You could see the bars of people who work for these people about how they communicated. And I just sent it out blank, and I said, "Tell me what you see on this." And it's pretty amazing what people look at it and they go, well, it looks like employees didn't rate their leader as high as the leader rated themselves. I said, yeah, that's pretty interesting. What else did you notice? And they go, well, the other thing that was pretty interesting is that the employee, the leader's boss and the leader's peers, the other leaders that are on the same level they are, they tended to rate that leader's communication a little higher than the employees. I said, yeah, that is something that's very clear on the chart. So what do you think that's saying to you? Well, we're not sure, but it would, well, it kind of seems like the leader tends to hang around with his peers and the leaders, maybe not spend much time with the employees. So you hit the nail on the head, because when I went in and did follow up interviews with some of these folks on this, one of the things they said is we never see our leader. But obviously, the peers and the leader's boss see him quite a bit. And so they kind of see, but even they didn't rate him as high as he rated himself in being able to communicate. That's a tendency we have. It's natural. It's not something you should be fearful of. If that happens to you in an assessment, it's happened to probably about 98% of Americans, or people in general who are communicating. We're not taught how to communicate. We're taught a language. We're taught words, like a particular English language, Spanish language, whatever. We talk about how to use those words to get certain actions or something going on. But in terms of connecting on a personal level with somebody, there are very few people who know much about emotional intelligence and the effectiveness of self-awareness and how to use nonverbal communication to make that connection while simultaneously trying to regulate somebody's behavior. That's not normally something that people tell me they have had classes and a lot of education in, and particularly leaders. So you're going to find that to be your case too. You can go to my website, victorlvogel.com, or just get in touch with me and email me or something, and I can send you to the right direction. Where I have the books I've written there are ebooks. They're easy to read. They're not long, but they're packed full of specific information that I know works to help leaders make a stronger connection with their people. So that means anybody who tends to read that information will probably learn a little bit more about how to connect more effectively with anybody you're connecting with. So that could be family, it could be children, it could be parents, it could be friends, associates, fellow workers, etc. This is a program I have worked not just with leaders, but I have worked it down with employees at the same time and had phenomenal results at being able to get leaders and employees to connect more effectively. Uh, and consequently, they were able to take this and go to other companies or other departments or other situations and be more effective as a leader. So this is something you need to learn, because if you're going to have this relationship with and change this relationship with those people, if you want that to change, if that's one of your objectives, you want things to change in Washington, you're going to have to put some work in yourself to understand how to do that, and the best way to make that happen, and then how to manage that, because that's what you're doing. You're telling those people what you want them to do, then you're holding them accountable for doing it and how to do that. And that's literally a strong leadership role. So um, there you go. I'll be glad to help. If you have anybody who wants to talk about this or wants some advice about how to go get started on doing this, I'll be, I'm retired, so I get a chance to sit down and most of the time when we start talking, everybody says, "Oh, I'll give you 15 minutes. Go ahead, book 15 minutes." Uh, my topic isn't a 15-minute topic. Normally, when people we start talking about this, I have been in sessions where we started talking. Somebody had a specific question that led to another question. We were on air for a couple of hours talking about it, and still talk about it on follow up today. Uh, and I'm not consulting in that. I can consult in it, and if somebody wants me to do something like that, that's probably how we should do it. But uh, the discussions I have, the chats I have, they're not paywall. They're not focused. They're not billable hours. They're just chats to kind of help you get a start in moving in the right direction. Now, I make money on my books if you buy my books. I have a 17-week training program if you really want to dig into it and learn how to do it real well. And you can self-direct it. This is something you can do yourself. You don't have to have an instructor go through it with you or a coach or anybody else. You can do it yourself. It'll work better if you have a coach or an instructor. You'll learn more, but you can do it on a self-directed way. Um, there's also situations where, if you have a group of people and we want to get on the air and kind of do this, organize this kind of approach to your representatives that you want to hire, you've got less than 100 days. That's not a lot of time to learn how to do this. So we'd have to start real quick. But that's one of the advantages where, although this has a lot of downfalls, one of the positive things is you can get some educational dynamics out there to a lot of people faster. So that's a positive from social media standpoint. Not everything's bad about it. A lot of it's bad, but not everything. So that's there. I don't know. I was having trouble sleeping, so I said, this has been on my mind. And if you read my Substack earlier, I have a hard time living with three bills on reducing the cost of food in a year and a half, and none of them are going anywhere. What the hell am I getting for $174,000 times 500 people? That's not a good return on investment. I don't know many executives that would put up with that. That's for sure. I'm sure they didn't run, if they were doctors or run their companies or whatever. I'm sure they didn't do it either. But they sure as hell somehow fall into that trap up there. And that's what it is. It's a trap. I mean, you get in there and people tell you, oh, I was going in with all these great ideas on how to make changes. Then I found out how you're really supposed to behave. No, no. I tell you, if you need help, get 5 or 6 of us to go up there with you and let those people tell us that, no, that's the way it works. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to. Uh, so, but you're also, the other thing you're going to need to learn to do is you're going to get bombarded with a tremendous amount of information. And everybody who is collecting all these dollars are not collecting the dollars to travel out there and spend time with you across the table of coffee. They're collecting dollars to buy ads and to go on podcasts and things like that. Uh, you're not getting your answer uh, definitively answered the way you want it until you sit down in front of your candidate and discuss it with them and understand their thoughts and feelings on it and get a chance to answer them tough questions. One of the problems I have about mass media, and then I now have it, it's beginning to be a problem now with podcasts. I like some podcasts that are more educationally oriented. They talk about specific things. I like that. But these political podcasts and podcasts for general awareness sake, uh, they're beginning to emulate what mass media has been doing, and that is they're going to they're all saying the same thing, just saying it different ways. In fact, you'll have one person go on 6 different podcasts and say the same thing, and they talk about the same thing, but they don't give you any answers. They don't have any. You can't ask any questions. You can't have the dialogue that creates another thought, another, neuron in the brain goes crazy, and something else goes on, and you ask something differently, or you ask for a different approach or whatever. That dialogue is where you get the real sense of a person's capability. That's why leaders need to be talking with their people as much as they're talking with their boss or the other leaders. Uh, that you gain so much more from that. All right, you have a very good evening. I'm going to let everybody go. Probably try to go get some sleep from this. Have a good evening.